Gringos, gringos, en Buenos Aires, en Buenos Aires, gringos, en Buenos Aires. Lights on the street, the rhythm is jumping, gringos in town and everybody is humping. From the north to the south, we're making some noise, showing the world we got the soul and the poise. Gringos en Buenos Aires.
Welcome to another dose of the Gringos in Buenos Aires podcast, a podcast that brings expat / immigrant life to you. Mr. Monopoly is back for another dose. We're passing go and collecting 200 pesos, which is not much, but let's give it up for Max. Hey, Max.
Thank you for having me back. Let me first say that new theme song, that's awesome. That should be like on an 80s sitcom. That is awesome. That's terrific.
My son made that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Very cool.
Yeah,
Very
thank
cool.
you, man. Nice to have you back, Max.
Good to be here. I had a lot of fun, or as my grandmother would say, oodles of fun last time. So
Yeah.
great to be back. Great to be here again.
Yeah, I remember talking about Tony Bag of Donuts and his bag of money coming in here to buy property.
Tony Bag of Donuts, who was one of my earlier clients, Seinfeld fan, he and I, we bonded over that. And he came in with one of them belts around his waist, and he had money there, and I waited for him at the airport and said, dude, what is this? And that's how we did it. That's how we did it. Thankfully, the country and our profession has evolved to where they no longer need to do that. Not that I know anyone who would want to do that. But there's any number of characters you run into on any given day or any given month in this line of work. Or not so much in this line of work, but when you work with people from all over the world, from different walks of life around the world.
Well, Buenos Aires is a magnet. It's a character magnet. I know the strangest and most interesting people I've met here. It's just it's amazing.
I've never heard it characterized quite that way, but I think you're absolutely right. I think there's a magnetism, and in my case, it harkens back all the way to when I was in grade school and high school. I was surrounded by foreigners, expat kids and military kids, and to this day, they're talking about it. Most recently, I saw a post by a buddy of mine who is from Little Rock, Arkansas, and he spent a lot of times here. He was a missionary kid, and he's always got the Argentina shirt. His wife is Argentine. They live, I think, in Texas now. They've been going to the football games in the Mundial.
Yeah.
So you're absolutely right. There's a magnetism, and sometimes as an Argentine, one kind of forgets that. I guess you forget about the good. You deal with the everyday BS, politicians, the traffic, whatever. But the reality is, it really is a great country. It's got some, great people. Everyone says that, we tend to be open and friendly and informal and, venite a tomar unos mates or whatever.
Sure.
Come at around 10 and, come earlier, come whenever. So yeah, that's very not structured.
Sure.
Which is, I think, what people warm to very much.
Yeah. And as I said in my introduction, you're Mr. Monopoly because you're a real estate broker. And how is the real estate market nowadays?
It's good. Objectively speaking, in terms of how the country is, prices are slowly going up. So that means that it's slowly turning from a buyer's market to a seller's market. So that means it sort of means that for the foreign buyer and the foreign investor, the window is closing a little bit. It's slowly, but it's closing in terms of getting better deals, which isn't to say they still can't get good deals, because you have to remember that even now, if you do comparables of the price per square meter in Buenos Aires, an average is, let's say, $3,500. Miami is $9,500 on the lower end. Paris is $15,000. So with that, and these are cities you can compare to each other. Buenos Aires is not, I don't think, second to these other cities. and their dollar gets them further here than it does in other countries, regardless of the inflation, regardless of certain aspects of the cost of living. Real estate continues to be a prime asset, continues to be the go-to investment for people.
I noticed that it's expanding beyond the regular, normal areas where immigrants, or let's say expats or whatever, look for places. For example, before it used to be Palermo or Recoleta. I noticed in my neighborhood, I live in Villa Pueyrredon. I can't pronounce the double R's too good, but I did all right that time. Villa Pueyrredon. It's they're knocking down houses and building small apartment buildings.
Yeah.
And
those are going to be the next. Think of either Brooklyn back in the day, or Dumbo down under Manhattan Bridge overpass, which were just meat lockers or whatever. And now everybody wants to buy there. So what's happening for a little bit now is the Villa Crespo, Colegiales, Chacarita, these places have become kind of the more go-to places, and you see a lot of construction going on there. Villa Pueyrredon is going to be probably one of the next ones to go in that route, which is, of course, a good thing. Now, by the same token, there are other areas which I think may never see that, such as you would think La Boca. La Boca is a place which invariably gathers a lot of tourism, although there's a specific area of you must have been to La Boca, 3 or 4 blocks, which is what garners the attention of people, the colored houses and everything else. Now, would they necessarily want to buy in La Boca? I don't know, possibly not. And there hasn't really been a concerted effort that I can see from the government or neighborhood associations to make it more gentrified, which I can understand, because La Boca is pretty much where the city of Buenos Aires began its history.
Sure.
The Senesis from Italy came there. They landed at the mouth of the river right there, and as you and your audience may or may not know, all those colored, walls are as a result of them taking everything they had, building their house, and painting with whatever they had. Hence all the different colors you see there.
Yeah.
But yeah, Villa Pueyrredon, which by the way is very nice, is probably going to be one of the next places where people are going to scope, and the price per square meter may go up.
Yeah, I think that the city is divided in 2 parts: the south and the north. I've noticed that the north of the city, like Belgrano and all of those places, is growing, whereas it seems like the south is always stuck in the past. You go to some place like Pompeia. I had to drive through Pompeia. I don't know where I was going, and it felt like I was in, no offense, but it looked like Paraguay, man. It looked like it's like
Pompeia is one of those areas which, what happens though is that the closer you get, as you go south or west for that matter, the closer you get to the province of Buenos Aires, and Pompeia finds itself closer to the limit between the province and the city. And of course, there you've got the southern end of the province, which is one of the less affluent ones, plus the Riachuelo, which is, obviously dirty and everything else.
Cesspool.
It's a cesspool, yeah. It does create that kind of I think it boils down to government.
Yeah.
Government is not as present as it should be, or not in every place that it should be. But you're right. North tends to be this kind of more affluent setting, and it's not just the city. So when you go north in the suburbs versus south in the suburbs, you get the same situation.
Yeah.
You get the same situation. Interestingly, you also notice that when there are elections, who is voted for most in the north of the city, who is voted for most when you're in the south of the city, or the west for that matter. I don't say the east because you got the river to the east.
Yeah.
But Pompeia is not great. You've got other places such as Mataderos, which is, I kind of like it, but it's rugged. And then as you head west, you've got Liniers, which is the defining line between the province and the city, which is very commercial, not tremendously nice, not a place where foreigners would necessarily invest unless they're looking at something very, very, very specific. But there's.
Are foreigners investing in Argentina and Buenos Aires now in real estate?
In the province of Buenos Aires?
No, here in the city.
Yeah. We still have a large influx of people that are, asking us questions, and we're sending them all the info, and we're sending our ebooks. And what's interesting to me is that the guy that handles our marketing, he was asking me just a few questions just to do a ping pong, and he put it to me. He asks me, how do you sell someone? How do you, like, Paul, you come to my office. How would I sell Paul? How would I convince him to buy something with me or in Argentina or whatever? And I thought about the question for a while, and I came to the conclusion that I don't, which is great actually, I don't sell anyone. Even though I am, I guess for all intents and purposes, a salesman, because I sell homes and whatever. The person that comes to see me or calls me or wants to do a video chat, they've already made the decision, which is interesting because it speaks to the fact that they're kind of focusing their sights on Argentina or Buenos Aires in general. Not just Buenos Aires, mind you. Buenos Aires is obviously, I guess, the gold standard for them. But I recently I made a trip to last year to Córdoba. Had a New Zealand client who wanted to buy something in Córdoba, up in the province of Córdoba. So we get all sorts.
Córdoba's nice.
Córdoba's gorgeous.
Yeah,
Córdoba's gorgeous.
nice.
That has been my third trip up there. I went for the day, so I didn't get to do a whole lot. But I woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning, drove to the airport, flew up, got the money from the bank, walked with the money a few blocks to the notary's office, not before stopping by McDonald's for a burger, with the money in my knapsack, signed, went back to the airport, had a cup of coffee, came back home. I was in bed by 11 o'clock. And the guy, he wasn't even in Argentina. I did the whole thing for him. Needless to say, he was very happy, and he loves the house he bought.
Sure.
But it's all in all these people that you meet from time to time.
Are people buying houses or apartments?
I would say it's predominantly apartments, predominantly condos, but you do get from time to time people who buy houses, which in the city there's fewer of them, but there are. And then the suburbs, we had one or two people buying out in the suburbs because their kids were going to go to Lincoln School out in La Lucila.
Sure.
One guy from Seattle bought a killer house in La Isla up in Recoleta, close to where you were at the other day, you were telling me.
Mm-hmm.
I call it Wayne Manor. It's like a 4-story, beautiful 100-year-old, like a brownstone from New York. Got it at a steal right in the midst of the pandemic. So yeah, there's still, I guess this is by way of saying that there are still many, many diamonds in the rough, many offers, many deals to be had.
Yeah. Do you know anything about, which is interesting, I have a couple friends, I even had going through this experience, the sucesión. I don't even know what it's called in English.
Probate.
A probate. There
Yeah.
you go. Do you handle that? What's the deal with that? I mean,
I don't
it's pretty
because
complex.
I don't because I'm not a lawyer.
Uh-huh.
But we do. That's an interesting question. We do actually manage cases where the property is under probate. It's sucesión. So the immediate assumption would be we have to wait until probate is concluded to be able to sell the house, which is not actually. It's not accurate. It's a fallacy, and I don't want to speak out of turn because I'm not a lawyer, but as I understand it, there is a type of real estate transaction which in Spanish is referred to as tracto abreviado, which is to say that while the probate is being handled, the property can be sold, and at the time probate is concluded, that is added onto the deed at the registro de la propiedad inmueble. Thereby eliminating the need for, let's say, you to have to wait to sell your property or me to have to wait to buy your property until probate is concluded.
Oh, wow.
So obviously, una sucesión, depending on the complexity of it, depending on all the parties involved, depending on if people are bickering with each other and all that stuff, sure, it can take a while. But if it's just a regular run-of-the-mill, my mother died and it's just me and I'm inheriting that property, the probate is done, and while it's done, it can be advertised, and the process of selling can be started.
Because speaking of my personal experience, my father-in-law bought a house in Villa Gesell on the coast. Mm-hmm. No papers. You know what I'm saying? There was two sisters. They hated each other, and one of them said, "I'll sell it." He bought it, paid $10,000. It's been 20 years. Still can't sell the house. And I know that next year the probate expires. You know what I'm saying? And finally, after 20, it was, I think Magnetism changed it from 20 years to 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
So if you buy some property, it's something weird.
That's
like
called,
that.
I think, in legalese, I think they call that prescripción liberatoria o prescripción adquisitiva. I think, again, disclaimer, I'm not a lawyer, but there's a statute. That's what it is. A statute of limitations to where if I've borrowed your hat for 20 years and haven't given it back, the assumption is now it's mine because it's been 20 years. So, but what you're describing sounds more like the sisters didn't have the proper documentation to sell, like a deed did not exist. And actually, a lot of people do that. They buy something, and that happens a lot in the provinces. For instance, you come to me and you say, I want to buy this plot of land in La Provincia de San Juan, well up to the north in a little tiny area of La Provincia de San Juan. So what would I normally do? What would my office normally do? We would get the due diligence. We would find out who's the owner and is he who he says he is. Does he have any liens or embargoes? We do titles, the notary would do title study. And then what's called agrimensura, which is the surveying of the land. Because now we're talking about land. We're not talking about an apartment building. We're talking about land which needs to be surveyed. Now, the surveying should have been done, and I think it's good for like 20 years or something. So if 20 years have gone by, you have to do a new one, as I recall. Now the problem is, a lot of these plots of land have been handed down from great-great-grandfather to great-grandfather to grandfather to son to father to this, that, and the next thing, and all the way back to, Juan Manuel de Rosas, when Argentina was maybe not even a country, or even before then. So there never was a deed or a surveying. So what they did was they would cede the rights and say, okay, Paul, let's sign here that I give you the rights to this property. Cut to 2026, where things are now a bit more formalized, and can you sell that plot of land? Yes, you can. But are you running the risk of someone coming out of the woodwork and saying, I am the third brother twice removed of Max, and he was not allowed to sell that to you, Paul. So all of a sudden, it's kind of a clusterfuck because you got to go to court. They can take you to court. So and that's actually why a lot of plots of land are so inexpensive. A very similar case about a piece of property that could not be sold, but a great deal was had, is one that happened to me just like 2 months ago, and I couldn't believe it. My client got this killer deal through no help of mine, to be perfectly honest. She would say, okay, now do this. Now, let's call her Joan. Joan, this is never going to fly. Well, yeah, go and ask him. So I did, and anyways, there was a property which was at some fakakta high price, $270,000, something like that, which I thought was overpriced, in the square in Recoleta. Beautiful view, needed some work, 270 grand. Let's go in with an offer of 200. I thought that was a very aggressive offer, but okay, thinking they're not going to take this. They took the offer. Okay. I should have thought that was a red flag, but we do all the due diligence, so, if anything pops up, it'll pop up. Worst case scenario, we've wasted some time because the other broker didn't disclose everything, right? So far, so good. We start with the due diligence and quickly come to find that the property was owned by an entity from Uruguay. And when they had bought it, there was a certain amount of paperwork that was not needed, which now is. I'm just watering down the story because otherwise it gets too technical. Now that paperwork was needed. Getting that paperwork from Uruguay to Argentina, according to the notary that we work with, was very, very, very hard to do. He had known cases where it took 10 years. And so as a result of that, my immediate remark to Joan was, and to my chagrin, I said, you don't want to buy this. You don't want to buy this because it's going to be a headache for you. She took my advice, went to see more things with our agents, and she kept getting like, Max, I really like this place. I like the price. I like the this. I like the that. And we had a second meeting with the other broker and the I guess the rep or the appointee for the entity. And he promised that he can get the paperwork up and running, and blah, blah, blah. We gave him a month, nothing happened. So she comes back to me and says, okay, now let's make a lower offer of 120. And I said, well, okay, we'll do that. They accept the 120. We're now down from 270 to 120. I say, this is wonderful, but to an extent, not a good sign when they're bringing down the price quite so much.
It's too good to be true.
Too good to be true. So she said, oh, yeah, I understand it. And I laid out, as did the notary in a meeting, I laid out all the reasons why I felt she shouldn't buy it, which was tantamount to what we were talking about, the plots of land. You know, you might have a headache in the future. She understood it. She wanted to roll the dice. She did. And she did. She got a killer deal. She didn't care that up until this point there's no deed, because her thinking is, I'm going to live here for the rest of my life. I just want the property. I just want to be able to do it as I wish. And then when the day comes that I have to sell it, I'll just sell it with this documentation. If anyone wants to buy it, fine. If they don't, I don't care. And she got a wonderful deal without any help from me. I mean, I did the hand-holding thing and I helped her, but she was far more aggressive than I could have ever dreamed. So again, there are people who find magnificent deals. You may or may not be more in line with wanting to have all the paperwork. Some people don't. Most people do. I find foreigners most of the time do. You know, we've had deals fall apart because a comma was misplaced. So we didn't agree to this comma. Let's take this comma out. So you get everything. You got everything.
Yeah. And most of your clients are coming from the States. Aren't anyone coming from Europe?
We get everything. We get I would say U.S. and Canada for the most part. Mm-hmm. We get Europeans.
There's an exodus in the United States.
Yes, there is. Yes, there is.
There's a lot of people leaving.
Yeah. A lot of people are either upset with the politics, or just a lot of with the grind of the day to day, or just or they're retiring, or they're snowbirds, or they just came the one time and they fell in love with it. Just so many reasons. And as an Argentine, it's always great to hear. You know, I came here, I didn't expect it to be this. I met my wife here. I met my husband here. I made a life with just 2 days ago, I was talking to a girl who was a past client of mine. She had rented a property. This has been maybe 10 years ago now. I remembered her. She was now married with 2 kids to an Argentine fellow, and she was reaching out to get some assistance because she wanted to buy a house in Los Cardales, out north. So we do a lot of that. We do a lot of consultancy and advising as to, and I think that's what people value the most. They say, okay, look, Paul, this one's overpriced. Don't buy this one. Or let's wait. Let's see if we can bring the price down. Or, Paul, they're not bringing the price down. So let's see if we can negotiate them paying some of the notary's fees, or wiring the money to your U.S. account, or anything else that might become beneficial to you as a buyer.
Sure. I remember we talked about last time, you don't need big bags of money anymore. You can just do bank transfers and stuff like that.
We've started working the CUSICPA, which is the governing body for what we do, the Realtors Association, if you will, for the city of BA, has an agreement with the brokers of the city to where there's a specific bank that allows foreigners, or anyone really, but foreigners to open up bank accounts fairly easily. Because A, getting the money from there to here is always a problem, and B, opening up a bank account by a foreigner is very hard, if not impossible. So this bank, which is it's been around for 100 years, but it's more of a boutique financial service bank. We got in touch with them. Actually, the director of the bank came to our offices, which when I learned it was the director, I said, look, I would never have bothered you to come to my office. I would have come to you. So, but anyways, they're very sort of hands-on, and we've already used them maybe 7 or 8 times with clients from overseas. And I'll tell you a funny story about that. You have 2 ways of bringing the money, always legally, right, into Argentina through the regular channels. One of them is through the Banco Central. The other one is through la Comisión Nacional de Valores, the stock market.
Mm-hmm.
With the former, it goes through the bank, and you will pay whatever commission the bank will charge you, maybe 3% for their service, as well they should. With the other one, with the latter, the stock market, you are essentially bringing the money in as bonds or chips of trade or whatever. And because there is an incentive for people to bring dollars into Argentina, if you do it that way, they will give you money back. So you might either break even in the commission versus what they give you as an incentive, or make some money. To wit, a guy from Turkey bought an apartment fairly cheap, $80,000. He wired $80,000 from his Turkish account, and the bank gave him $80,400.
Wow.
So I'm not saying that's necessarily all cases, but it becomes
It's an incentive to some.
an incentive. It becomes easier. It becomes cheaper, and it has the added benefit of being completely legal.
What's the drawback? Is there any drawback?
There's no drawback. There's no drawback. The only thing, of course, is that they don't open an account just to anyone. They'll say, okay, Paul, you want to open an account? Okay, you're bringing in $200,000 because you're buying a place. Okay, wonderful. Show us where you made that money. Okay, I was a lawyer for 20 years in California, and here are my invoices, and here's the $200,000 in my Chase Bank. So you got to produce certain documents that'll indicate that you're not just some guy wiring money and laundering money. You got to produce information to that effect. But drawbacks? No, I tell you, we're working with them, and they're wonderful, and it's one more tool that allows foreigners to comfortably and seamlessly bring money into Argentina.
So let's say a buddy of mine is in Philly. He wants to buy something in Buenos Aires. He does that. Do you need any ID, for example? Let's say, do you need citizenship, residency? Anybody from anywhere can buy property? No.
You don't need,
as long as you can prove where it's coming from?
Yeah. In terms of the financial part of it, yeah. As long as you can prove where it comes from, you're fine. And in terms of ID, you just need a valid passport and then the quit, which used to be CDI. Now it's called a quit, which is what you and I have as you're a resident. I'm an Argentine. Sure. It's the tax ID, social security number, whatever you want to call it, which allows you as a foreigner to buy any kind of registrable goods, house, boat, expensive art, whatever you want to call it. So that's all he needs. And I'll go one further. If he didn't want to, he wouldn't even have to come to Argentina. Everything is it can be handled remotely. We can, through power of attorney, we can open up the bank, which is also something to take into consideration, because it used to be, or maybe still is, that it is such a personal thing to open up a bank account that even if I'm your brother or your son or whatever, I can't go and open up a bank account for you. With these guys, with this specific bank, we can. So you're in the States. You say to me, Max, I don't know, I read good things about you, whatever. I want to work with you. I want you to buy me a place. Send me videos. Let's do video calls, which we have done, by the way. If there's one that I like, I'll send you the money. I'll send you the POA so that you can open up the account. Please sign it for me, and that's it. Now, granted, we've had that happen to us a handful of times, maybe 3, maybe 4 in all my years. And I don't prefer to do it that way either. I want for you to come to Argentina, to look at it, because I can do a whole bunch of videos, and I can call you on FaceTime or whatever the hell a bunch of times and say, okay, look, Paul, what do you think of this? But you got to be here. Now, there are certain types of investors that don't care. They've got FU money, so they say, I can plop down 120 or 200K, and Max, tell me if you like it or not, and that's it. They like to diversify.
Yeah.
But all things being equal, as an American or as a Canadian or whatever, you wouldn't have to step foot into Argentina for the entire process.
Wow.
If you work with us.
Sure.
Because there's no language barrier is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We most recently had a case of a girl, she's my age. Let's call her a girl. She bought a house sight unseen because she fell in love with it through a call we were having. I couldn't believe it any more than she could. Of course, later a friend went to see it who lives here, and we did videos and whatever, but that's being signed next Monday. She still hasn't seen it. A lot of it is trust. obviously. A lot of it is who you know. Oh, I know. Talk to this guy. A lot of it is trust, obviously.
Sure. Yeah.
But
Obviously.
my wife, even to this day, says, "This guy just sent you $2,000. This guy just sent you $200,000 to. How the hell does he know you're not going to just abscond with it?" Valid question. I don't know. I guess he must have talked to someone who talks to someone, and somehow along the line, I fooled people into believing that I'm a good guy.
Let's just say you weren't a good guy. That they buy the property, and someone just starts living there. Can like the squatters, supadores? Are there new laws for that?
Yeah.
For example, someone, hey Max, here's $100,000. Buy me a house. You get them the house. Next thing you know, you and your family are living there. What can they do? They got any rights?
Squatters' rights, or
Yeah.
the owner?
The owner.
Oh, the owner can kick them out with the police or by virtue of law enforcement. It's not an overnight thing. But yeah, there are laws. It used to be much more bureaucratic and much more of a hassle. They've now done a better job of doing that. But the reality is, though, I always like to say there's a step zero. Step zero is, okay, who's handling this? Who are you buying from? Where is the property located? Is there a risk of squatters? You mentioned earlier, or we talked earlier about buying in the province of San Juan. If it is some town with population 120, where you don't have a sereno who's looking after the property, alguno se te va a meter ahí.
Yeah.
You're going to get someone who's going to eventually start building their little house.
Yeah.
So you need someone there. In the city of BA, especially in the areas where my clients like to buy, less so.
Yeah.
Less so.
A buddy of mine, a few months back, bought just as right before you get to Miramar, passing Mar del Plata. There's a
Necochea.
No, it's before Miramar. After Mar del Plata, passing Chablamadal, there's a new area called San Eduardo del Mar.
Oh.
Yeah, and
Okay.
he bought a plot of land.
Just after the beautiful cliffs that you got there.
Yeah. 800 square meters,
Wow.
$12,000.
Wow.
He went there. He bought it.
People living.
He fenced it up, and now he's sitting on it. You know what I'm saying? He's just waiting to get some money to build, and eventually, and all around they're just beautiful houses being built. So that's a good investment.
Absolutely.
Because you buy a plot of land for 12,800 square meters.
Absolutely.
It's like 2 blocks from the beach. Well, actually from the cliffs that
Yeah.
you mentioned. You got the acantilados, you got the cliffs there.
Yeah.
5 minutes from Miramar.
Miramar is gorgeous. Miramar is one of my favorite places in the world. I used to go there every summer. It still holds a very special. That's why. And my grandparents who bought a place there, they bought it when it was like San Eduardo.
Yeah.
And now Miramar is, it's a small town, but it's buildings and it's got a life of its own. Not to the degree Mar del Plata does, but still. So, yeah, those are great investments. Yeah, Mar de las Pampas was one of the later ones that, there's another one called Costa del Este, which actually a client from Holland bought a plot of land there recently.
Wow.
So, yeah, there's...
So there are some investors from Europe.
Oh, yes.
What about Germany?
Yeah, Germany too. We had, let's see, I don't remember necessarily now, but I do. We had 2 years ago or so a German fellow and his 2 sons. I had a more recent one actually, who bought a condo about a block away from my office. 2 German brothers and the mother. The mother's a concert pianist, and one of the brothers is a lawyer in Germany, and the other one I'm not sure. But the mother's a concert pianist. She's a lovely lady. But a few years back, 2 guys and their father bought something in near Ezeiza Airport, near San Maximo, I think is where it's called, where it's close to
Canuela,
near
Canning.
Canuelas. Yeah, near Canuelas, where there's a big development that they were doing. So,
Sure.
and I think they picked it up for like $12,000.
Because I think they got the military. It's now you have to do the military service. I think you mentioned something in Germany.
Where?
In Germany,
there was a client of mine from Germany said that now they're concerned about the expansion of communism. So Germany is reinstating the draft
There you
for
go.
people ages, I think they told me 19 to 49. I mean, this is what they told me. I don't know. But if it's true, I can certainly appreciate why people of that age range would want to get the hell out of Dodge, no?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of young Americans here too because of that. In the United States, you know, the war in Iran, and
But you guys aren't reinstating the draft.
no, but there is a. I think, but there is a. I don't know if there is a draft. Is there?
I have no idea. I didn't think there was.
No, I don't know. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either.
But if they do,
Well, you know, you got a lot of people. I mean, you got a lot of people who are very sort of gung ho and patriotic or whatever, and there's an equal amount of people who are like, oh, I'm not gonna, you know,
yeah.
risk my life for my country. Forget that.
How long you been in the real estate business?
Well, I started very, very young, and it's going to be 30 years in October, 1996, as an employee of a firm in the northern suburbs, Reynolds Propiedades.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there on out, I worked in either real estate or management, just for years and years and years. And then I went back to school, got my broker's degree. I first had like a kind of a short-term rental management company, and then that was converted into what I have actually, which is MGNI.
Mm-hmm.
But in the
You've seen it all.
in the life insofar as real estate goes, 30 years, believe it or not, 30 years.
You've seen it all.
Well, I only think I've seen it all. It's
Yeah,
Argentina,
you
so there's
really-
probably more to see. But
There's probably more to come.
yeah, there's more to come. But I've had my share of, which is great for business, and it's great for being able to talk to someone, whether in Spanish or in English, because as we say, el diablo sabrá por viejo y no por diablo.
Yeah.
So after repetition of things, I'm able to say, look, Paul, hold on. This is like this and this is like that, and that's not what's going to happen. This is what's going to happen. And the reply you're going to get is going to be that one and not this one. And it's not because I'm so intelligent. Just believe me, I'm not that intelligent. What we do in real estate, you don't have to be a rocket scientist.
Sure.
But just the experience, the repetition of stuff, you start to form your I guess your knowledge base of, okay, now this is going to happen. So I got to go back to my guy and tell him that that's going to happen. Cause
How do you explain what happened in Palermo? Because I remember driving around, and my girlfriend, my wife, when we were dating, driving around in her old like Renault station wagon, and we were driving down Godoy Cruz and Costa Rica, and it was just horrible. And you could see for sale signs, and I called once. I was like, they wanted $12,000 for a house, and it was like, oh, if only I had $12,000. And then next thing you know, a house in Palermo is probably what, $250,000, $500,000 for a house. How do you explain that? What happened there?
Well, I'm not an economist. I'm not an expert in that. But what I can tell you is that probably here, as well as in other pockets around the world, real estate garners value over time. In some pockets of the world, like Argentina, that happens more swiftly. I don't know if it goes hand in hand with inflation, because the value of something is coupled with your day-to-day living. If you make more money over time, I guess people want to sell their properties for more money over time. I don't know, but I guess it's the same as if you're
Marketing?
I don't know, but I guess, again, if you go to, let's say, Miami in the 1970s, you could pick up probably a condo on Brickell Avenue for what? Donuts. I don't know. And now you can get a crap ton of money for that. And the same for, I don't know, LA or certain areas which were back, I don't know, Las Vegas. Las Vegas used to be a desert. You could probably buy a house at the time for nothing, and then now, if you sell it, well, an example that I heard, because I have a lot of people who live in Austin, Texas. Austin, Texas in recent years has had a huge boom to where you could buy stuff like in 2008 and 9 and 10, which granted was after the whole Lehman Brothers thing, for very, very cheap. And then the housing market, 2015, 16, 17, 18, just, exploded. So these are the kinds of people that could probably sell that and buy, like a McMansion if they wanted to.
Because it went from Palermo Viejo to Palermo Hollywood and Palermo Soho.
Well, actually, it went from Palermo, which is what it's technically called, to Palermo Viejo, Palermo Hollywood, Palermo Soho, Palermo Freud, Palermo Nuevo, Las Canitas, which doesn't technically registralmente exist. It's just Las Canitas, which was kind of the precursor to the whole cool Palermo Soho Hollywood thing. But yeah, you're right. It just became broken up and gentrified.
I heard there's Palermo Queens and
Palermo Queens, yeah.
Palermo Bronx.
Palermo Bronx, yeah. And Palermo Freud is where theoretically it's Freud because there's a confluence of psychologists and psychiatrists there.
Wow, check that out. You walk in there, you get confused.
I guess. I don't know. I don't even know where some of these are.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. And you had mentioned, we were talking before, you mentioned someone deciding on whether to buy or not according to the position of the
Oh, that is probably my favorite story in all my years. That's my favorite story. This is, buckle your seatbelts. I love this one. There was a fellow from China, or he wasn't Chinese by origin, but he was a Chinese national. He was from somewhere in Eastern Asia, I think. But reaches out, wants to buy a very nice sort of office / residential condo, fairly inexpensive. I think it was 90 grand or 95 grand, not a whole lot of money, on Esmeralda Street. I'll never forget. It was really nice. It
Downtown?
Yeah. Downtown, Esmeralda, close to, Plaza San Martin, not far from Retiro.
Yeah.
Normally a commercial section of town, but this was a nice building, and it was front facing, very, very nice. So, and there was another broker involved. It didn't come just through me. So I was the broker's, I was the buyer's broker. I was representing him. So we go back and forth on the price. And this was late October of, I think, 2 years ago now. And at one point where, due diligence is moving right along, it's mid-November. The money is taking a while to get to Argentina. Everything else is ready. The notary, everyone is ready. And so the guy says, okay, look, there's one thing. I can't sign between November 26th and December 10th. I said, well, okay, that can happen. Does he have a trip planned? Does he have surgery? Is his wife going to be, in labor and he's got to be next to her? I don't know. He says, no, I can't sign because Mercury will be ascending. So I kind of look at him because I want to keep my poker face.
Yeah.
Okay, please elaborate. And he explains to me that they take that stuff very seriously. Mercury, for those at home who don't know, and I had to learn this, but Mercury was ascending, I don't know where or when, but what it essentially means is if you subscribe to these kinds of things, that it is never a good time to enter any transaction or any deal or make any economic decisions. So I said, well, okay, because my immediate thought was, we're really okay for time. It's never gonna go beyond November 26th. Guess what? It was about to go beyond November 26th because anything that can possibly go wrong in a deal tends to go wrong, right? So we were, reaching the November 20, 22, 24. The money was still not here. The documents that we needed, there was, a number of things which were not lining up, if you will. And so at the same time, I had to tell the listing agent we weren't going to be able to sign until later in December. So what do I tell her? Do I tell her Mercury's ascending so my guy can't sign? I don't know that I can do that. I mean, listen, I'm open to anything, but will the other party understand or even respect this? I'd never run into this. So when it seemed that we really, really were up against the ropes, I had a moment of clarity, and I say to him, look, let me ask you this. What time on the 26th does Mercury rise? Is it Eastern Standard? Is it Pacific? Is it Georgetown? Oh, okay, that's kind of a good question. Let me find out. So he comes back to me the next day, says, look, if we can sign on the 26th anytime before 11:30 or 11:45. We're good. I said, okay. So, long story short, that's what we did. We came in right under the radar, signed it like at 11:30 that morning, and everyone was happy and the planets aligned, probably, quite possibly, literally, in addition to figuratively. I never told the other broker that was kind of what was going on. But that was probably my favorite sort of scenario with any given client.
Cool. That's funny.
Yeah. I mean, at the time it wasn't fun because I thought, what am I going to tell these people? But when you think back on it, it was kind of funny. It's kind of a cool story to tell.
Cool. So let's say if someone is thinking of selling their property, right? Why should they call you and not someone else?
Well, it's always very important to call the best person out there, the most honest person out there, the one who they're second to none, excellent at their job. That guy might not be available. So at that point, they call me.
Yeah.
So no, I mean, we have made a niche of working with foreigners.
Uh-huh.
I myself am, my family's from the United States. I've spent the better part of my life surrounded by people from the U.S., Canada, all over the world. We don't have a language barrier. We're a one-stop shop to where, okay, Paul, you need obviously us to search for the house. You need to get your tax ID. You need an accountant to walk you through certain things. You need the notary. You need to open up a bank account. And possibly most important, you need someone who's going to tell you things how they are.
Sure.
And
no surprises.
I'm going to say to you, if I need to, if I don't think that this is the right deal for you, I will favor you walking away and my making either less money or money down the line, as opposed to, putting myself or my office ahead of you. It's the ethical thing. It's the right thing. But if I may, there's also a selfish reason why I do that. And that is I help you buy a place, and whether or not it's the right place or not just kind of takes a back seat. I don't want you to call me in a year or 2 or 3 and say, hey, remember me? I'm Paul. You helped me buy this place? Turns out it's a piece of shit. And maybe you knew that it had these problems. Or maybe you didn't, but you didn't scour it enough. So I don't want that phone call. I want to go home. I want to go to bed. I want to watch my TV and not have an email or a WhatsApp or saying, hey, dude, I had this problem. In fact, I want quite the contrary. I want to get a Christmas card from you. Hey, John, my name is John, and Paul Perry recommended you. He spoke wonders of you. That's what I want.
Sure.
I want to be loved. I just want people to be happy and say, I'll come back to this guy. Yeah. So, I mean, they're not going to know how honest I am or not until they do their homework. Mm-hmm. But I'd like to believe that there's an honesty factor. There's a transparency factor. There certainly is a nothing lost in translation factor, which I think disarms people very, very quickly. The fact that they don't have to be scurrying to, okay, what did he say? What did he not say? In fact, a lot of the clients that we get them at the 11th hour. And we all actually have an addendum to our contracts or service agreements. One of them is called the 11th hour addendum. Why? Because you, Paul, again, you come to Argentina, you want to buy a place. You might think, well, I'll go to Remax, I'll go to Century 21, I'll go to Coldwell Banker. Why? Because if they exist in the United States, it stands to reason that they work the same way here. They do not. They are still run by Argentines, and we Argentines have a very specific mindset. You know this. You've lived here forever. I know this because I'm an Argentine. So when I get a foreign client, I say to them, we're going to keep under wraps the fact that you're a foreigner until the absolute last minute, because I don't want them to say, ooh, there's an Americano. Let's see if we can,
Sure.
He's got money. Who cares? We can. And it's a fallacy. So it's a very complex set of variables. And so they'll go to Remax and the Remax agent, mind you, I've worked with a lot of Remax and agencies, and I enjoy doing so because they're very structured in the way that they do it because they respond to a hierarchy within the company. So this is not me shitting on Remax, on the contrary. But they will assume that Remax in Boston, Massachusetts is the same as Remax here, thinking, well, McDonald's in Miami is like McDonald's in BA. Sure, but the same doesn't hold true for real estate professionals. It just doesn't. And so they'll come and say, look, I went to see this place and I signed something with Remax. I don't know what it is. I have a message on my phone to that effect, which I have to read in the coming days. They signed something. They now want to know what it is that they signed. And it blows my mind that anyone would sign something in a foreign language, no less, without understanding what it is or what it says or what it represents.
Sure.
So we've run into those cases before. And actually, those are my favorite kinds of cases, believe it or not, because I'm able to sort of dissect what the situation is and say, okay, look, we gotta roll this back. We got to talk to the broker. 90% of this is fine, but there's one or two things here which I'm not crazy about. And so we'll sort of rear them in the right direction.
Yeah. Does Google Maps help you a lot in your business, for example? I imagine it does. Does Google Maps? So some people already know what they want. You mentioned some people already know what they want before they even get here, and I imagine it's because of.
I don't know that Google Maps. I mean, it helps me to the extent that it helps really everyone who's either in this business or any other business. So yes, we have used it in the past as a tool insofar as mapping out. You're looking for Almagro. Say, okay, Paul, here's a map of Almagro. Almagro Sur has this. Almagro Norte has this. Look at how close or far it is to, I don't know, Avenida Rivadavia, Avenida Juan B. Justo, the freeway. And that, of course, will give you a clearer picture. So Google Maps, to be sure, is something that we use. Other tools that we might use, of course, this day and age, artificial intelligence, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, all those. And then, of course...
How do you use them?
How do you use them?
How do you use
them?
them?
One of the ways that we use them, for example, is plopping down a bunch of information and asking for a synthesis of why A versus B is better, and then why B, if they say B, okay, why B versus C? Okay, why C versus D? And then, because it's not just what the computer does, you got to use what's called la sana crítica, which is to say what the computer can't replace,
Sure.
which is what 30 years in real estate will say to me, and what I know about Paul Perry. Okay, I know Paul, he's not going to like this because A, B, C, D. So, computer, this is what he likes, this is what he doesn't like. But all those tools are tools that really, really help us. And then certain statistics from the Colegio de Escribanos,
Sure.
from the Realtors Association, walk in the streets, because you got to walk the streets and check, are they building something there? Are they building something there? Which, by the way, is not something Google Maps will tell you.
Sure.
Which would be cool if it did, but you got to walk and see, okay, they're building this here. So what does that tell me? It tells me that the neighborhood is probably going to be up and coming.
Yeah.
Because now they're building something there. There's a new construction.
So why should people consider investing in Argentina or in Buenos Aires in this case?
I think that, and again, not to sell Argentina, a sizable amount of the people who buy in Argentina are doing it because they're riding the coattails of the bad things happening around the world and the good things they know about Argentina. And because a lot of word of mouth over the years has been going around, hey, I recently went to Argentina. Dude, you got to check it out. Whether you're a foreigner or whether you're an investor, a high-end investor, a low-end investor, a snowbird, straight shot from Miami, straight shot from Atlanta, straight shot from New York, straight shot from 3 cities or 2 in Texas. And this is just the United States. And we've done the math on it. There's a pie chart that we've developed over years as to why people buy, and it's the love of the country. Look, you live here. You're from the States and you live here, right? So I don't have to tell you, but they love the culture. They love the loosey-goosey feel of it. They love the architecture. They love the food. They love that as the 8th largest country in the world, geographically, they've got snow, they've got beach, they've got mountain, they've got wine, they've got the falls, which are one of the UNESCO heritage sites.
So much.
In terms of business, one of the largest potable water deposits in the world, lithium, Now, most recently, Vaca Muerta. So
I heard Neuquén is booming.
Neuquén is booming. We're now coming into that as well. My office is starting to gingerly start there as well because we don't want to be left out. So we want to do with residential, what we do with the residential, do it with that. So that's also in the pipeline. But see, that too is one of the big reasons why people flock to Argentina.
Yeah.
I mean, Peter Thiel, since last I was here, he bought a house of $12 million in Palermo.
Yeah.
I'd love to see what he bought because $12 million.
I thought it was in Parque Chas.
No, Barrio Parque.
Barrio Parque.
No, not Parque Chas, Barrio Parque.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
I have a student, and he was in Neuquén. He said it's flat and gray, but it's booming.
That is exactly. I have a friend from Neuquén
Yeah.
who said, and he's from Neuquén. He got the hell out of Neuquén. He lives here.
Yeah.
And in Palermo, and he got the hell out because he said it was the most boring place in the world. It's flat is the exact word he said. But yes, the Neuquén and especially the Vaca Muerta area is just really, it's doing gangbusters.
Cool. All right, Max. Okay. Well, we're almost out of time, but I want to thank you again for your visit here, and hopefully we'll have you back as Argentina continues growing, and hopefully it does, and especially if we win the World Cup. I think
I'm hopeful.
The Argentine team and the fans are really are helping to put Argentina on the map. You can see it in the fans, and everyone's talking about Argentina.
Well, exactly. And,
everybody's talking about it.
It happens from time to time, whether Maradona was the best player, whether the beef is the best, whether the wine, whether Messi nowadays. The Pope was Argentine when he was alive. There was the Argentine Pope. Now again, with the backdrop of the World Cup. In fact, and I had mentioned this to you, I was invited next month to go up to Sarasota to talk in the Realtors Association, give a session on Argentine real estate. Argentine real estate specifically, but just Argentina, what's going on with Argentina generally is becoming such a hot topic, such a point of interest. And we're very fortunate, again, my office is very fortunate because, to answer your previous question, you may like me or not, but we are the only people who do what we do. Licensed to practice. English speaking, nothing lost in translation. We recently overhauled our website to be more accommodating to our clients, made a huge investment on that so that they can download all of our ebooks. They're free, they don't have to subscribe. All of our videos, a library with statistics, just everything they might need for free so that they can then say, look, I read all your stuff, I have this question, this question, this question. It's for me, it's not for me, thank you, or what's our next step? So we get all sorts. Cool. But this invitation, for which of course I'm honored to go, has a lot to do with Argentina just being on everybody's lips. Yeah. So it's and we talked about it in my last visit. We talked about how if you can do well here, this country's an education. You can get used to just about anything anywhere around the world. Yeah. Which I think possibly is the single greatest education, because the country, I always say, I try to take as much work on as I can, because I'm sometimes frightened. There isn't a specific roadmap to what the country might do, as opposed to other countries, the U.S., so to speak, where you got inflation, this might happen, that might happen, Republican might win, Democrat might win, this might happen the next 4 years, this might not happen. Here, it's a bit more up in the air.
You never know what's
going to happen. More up in the air. You don't have a liberal government and a conservative government. You've got, when Kirchner is up, Kirchnerismo. When Cristina, Cristinismo. When Macri, Macrismo. Milei, Mileísmo. What was it before? Menem, Menemismo. Alfonsín, Alfonsinismo. So we have a political nomenclature for goddamn anyone who comes up to be president. I can't wait to be president myself and see what they're gonna, what they're gonna say. Gotzismo. Oh yes, I don't. It's bananas. If you get right down to it, It's bananas. But we have become so accustomed to it. We've gotten so used to it. And my favorite situation is when I have an Argentine client who's lived in the U.S. for 20 years or anywhere, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. He comes back because, he's coming back to his roots or whatever. And it's like I'm talking to a foreigner. He says, oh, but, they're like the most complicated types because they forget. Paul, they forget what Argentina is. They've been happily ensconced in Miami, in Paris, in Munich. I don't care. So they come back to Buenos Aires and, You ever see that movie, that recent movie, what's it called? El Ciudadano Ilustre?
I haven't.
Okay. It's from the director who did, I think, Relatos Salvajes.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Ciudadano Ilustre, just very quickly, tells the tale of an Argentine writer who wins the Nobel Prize. He's been living in Spain for years, for like 30 years or whatever, and he wins the Nobel Prize. He's a very well-respected, international writer in Spanish. And he was from a very small town in the province of Buenos Aires. I forget the name. It might have even been fictional. So his secretary, the movie starts with the secretary after he was in Stockholm receiving the Nobel Prize. Secretary is reading him, okay, you got this invitation from Miami, pass. You got this one from New York, pass. You got the Union of whatever, pass. Oh, you got this one from your hometown. They want to name you Ciudadano Ilustre del Pueblo. No. Well, actually, hold on. Let me keep that one. Anyways, he decides to go because it's his hometown. When he arrives, the guy waiting for him is this, big fat guy with a sign, handheld sign in pen. And the car is like a Fiat 600, which 2 hours into the trip, it breaks down. So they have to stay on the side of the road and build a fire because it's cold with, wait for it, his book. So it's this whole, cultural thing of I'm coming back to Argentina and goddamn, a lot of stuff is just the same. Yeah. Just the same. So, it's there's a romance and there's a folklore to it, and you either adapt and love it or not. Yeah. That's pretty much your two options. And that's something that I have to, when someone says, oh, but in the United States, Paul, let me stop you right there.
Forget it.
That's a slippery slope. Or the German guy, yeah, but I can't imagine that in Germany. No. This is an animal all of its own. Yeah. So, you adapt.
Yeah, we're lucky to be here.
I think
we're fortunate. We're fortunate.
I think so.
All right.
And to me, it's always nice how much people like it here. Yeah. And you're an example. You stayed here.
Yeah.
You stayed here.
I feel good here.
There's any number of people that have that same kind of feeling you do, where I can make a home here. I will make a home here.
And everyone that comes on this show just is in love with life here.
Well, that's kind of the ethos of your show.
Yeah.
It's people from over. I might be the only Argentine on your show, but it's people who have found themselves here and have, as we say in Spanish, es su lugar en el mundo.
It's my place.
This is where I want to be.
Yeah.
This is where I want to be.
Yeah, this is our place in the world, and this is your place in the world for expats, immigrants, and even locals. And Max, I want to thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me on.
Looking forward to having you back
anytime
in the near future, as property keeps growing and people keep coming here, and vamos a Argentina, carajo.
Vamos a Argentina y ojalá que el mundial sea nuestro otra vez.
All right. Thanks a lot, Max.
Thank you, Paul.
And I want to thank everybody for watching, everybody for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time for another dose of the Gringos in Buenos Aires podcast. Ciao for now.
Gringos in Buenos Aires. Lights on the street, the rhythm is jumping. Gringos in town and everybody is humping. From the north to the south, we're making some noise, showing the world we got the soul of the boy.